All right, y'all, welcome back to my arms channel. Okay, so today we're doing another gear review, and today we are checking out the Agilite Magnetix Battle Belt. So they actually reached out to me, kind of like full transparency. They reached out, said they wanted to send this my way, and I was stoked. So if you guys don't know, I'm a huge fan of battle belts or pistol belts. If you would have asked me maybe, I don't know, maybe like 8 years ago, I would have told you I'm not a fan of belts whatsoever. If you guys don't know my background, I was in the Marine Corps infantry and then in the Army infantry. In the infantry, it wasn't as conducive, especially kind of like conventional infantry, just because having something around your waist is a little bit kind of tedious whenever you're going in the prone or moving around a lot, moving long distances. But for more of like a CQB scenario, more kind of like lighter movements, or, you know, just like a trip to the range, a battle belt or pistol belt is a very, very awesome thing to have. And if you guys don't believe me, I have a lot of belts. So I have the Ronin belt, which is very popular. I have this Raptor tactical belt. I have an ATS tactical belt. And I have a Faro Concepts belt. So this is their Bison belt. So I've got a lot of belts. So I have some pretty strong opinions on what I like and don't like in belts. Of course, I have used belts when I was in the Marine Corps and Army infantry. But I gotta say, this Agilite belt definitely ticks all those boxes for me. And I'll kind of talk about everything one by one. Now, before we get into the actual belt itself and kind of how you can use it and some of the pros and cons, I'm gonna talk about the inner belt. So compared to other inner belts that I've seen, this one has a very unique design. So it's not overly thick, overly rigid. It is fully adjustable. So all you have to do is utilize this buckle. You can see it's got this sort of composite material, which helps for stiffening. So you can actually use this kind of as like an everyday carry kind of belt. So it advertises as like a CCW belt. So if you do concealed carry, you can use this inner belt kind of as your everyday belt. And you can see here, we'll talk about this a little bit later, it's also got some magnets built in to work with that outer belt. So again, how it kind of compares to other inner belts. So generally what those will look like is pretty much just this, pretty much just like Velcro. Sometimes it will have like a buckle or kind of like a quick release buckle, but those aren't like usually as adjustable or as easily adjustable. These work okay, but again, sometimes they're either too thick or they're too thin. They're not rigid enough, or sometimes they're too rigid. I would say this one is probably a little bit too rigid. So there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to that. And again, having ones that are just a little bit taller like this usually makes it a little bit difficult, especially if you have kind of normal traditional belt loops. Might be a little bit difficult to fit that in there. So as far as the size of the actual inner belt, and again, the kind of the rigidness of it or rigidity, this thing does a great job. So I'll kind of show you how I can throw this sucker on. Okay, so we're getting it around. Again, fits through the belt loops of these normal pants really, really well. Okay, so you're gonna take this thermoplastic, and basically there's like kind of a sleeve. So there's different sizes. This, I'm wearing a medium, so I'm a 33 in the waist. So I got the medium and it works perfectly fine. But you have kind of like this pocket right here where that thermoplastic will actually go in. So once the belt is totally through the belt loops, you just find that pocket, take that thermoplastic, and then you just tuck that in. And then you can actually use the buckle to make sure you get a good tight fit. And then you can see it's almost got like some tension to it, and then it fits totally well. So it's kind of nice having that thermoplastic. And I will say the thermoplastic has like a really interesting kind of material to it, in that it will kind of conform to your body. So this is the same kind of thermoplastic. You can see here it's kind of bowed out a bit, and that's because I threw it on the ground and then I left it there for a few days. So kind of picking it up, it's kind of holding its shape there. So yeah, if you want, you can kind of take it off, kind of wrap it around you, and then just like secure it like that, and then it'll kind of conform to your own body shape. So again, definitely rigid. So I'll actually kind of show you that. I'll even show you that with a few weights that I have, and also see how it works with actually concealed carrying. But again, it fits really well. I got my mic back there, but again, totally rigid. You can see the magnets in the back as well. And yeah, I gotta say, it feels very, very comfortable. Super easy to throw on, you know, totally adjustable. And yeah, it's nice because it's kind of like streamlined, fits really close to the body. Okay, so let's say we are carrying a full-size Beretta. So I'm going to take that, see how it fits. So fits really nice as far as like the actual, you know, the clips and whatnot. Depending on your holster, it'll be pretty versatile. But again, because this is a 1.75 and not a 2-inch, it's gonna work with those holsters pretty well. So if you have some belts that aren't like firm or they don't have like a good kind of fit, then your gun, especially if it's heavier, like a full-size Beretta, it might start sagging forward and printing a little bit more. But you can see here, it's a very rigid belt, and I'm not having any issues with the holster and the gun kind of pushing forward and printing. I mean, it is a full-size gun, so it's just gonna be a little bit harder to conceal carry anyway. But as far as like the sag, I'm not feeling that whatsoever. So yeah, that fits really nice, works really nice. And again, as far as like actually drawing, it fits good. I'm not like moving the belt a lot because again, with that thermoplastic, it's really staying nice and tight to my body. So it's super easy to draw. So as far as like an everyday belt, this thing is totally feasible to bring around and again, use for concealed carry. You can see there's really no movement in the belt whatsoever. It's staying nice and tight to my body. And if you conceal carry with like the same holster and whatnot every single time, then that's gonna be nice because then it'll also kind of conform to that and also just, again, kind of keep it nice and tight to your body. So we're gonna try and attach some weights to this belt, this inner belt itself, and see how it actually holds up when we have some heavy weight on it. Okay, so I got 2 5-pound weights. So I'm basically just going to attach these and see how the belt actually holds up when you have this much weight. This is a lot of weight. Even if you kind of have like a pretty hefty everyday carry, it's probably not going to exceed 5 pounds, especially not 10 pounds. So we'll see how this goes. If you don't know how to tie a knot, then tie a lot. I was thinking about doing a bowline, but it's kind of a pain in the butt with a weight and also kind of from this angle. Okay, so totally hands-free. I'm not like supporting these weights at all. And you can see the belt is holding up very, very well. I mean, even kind of like moving around a lot, so you can see it's not really pulling my pants down whatsoever. Kind of sliding these around, we'll see how it affects different areas of that belt. So I'll put one more towards the back and then shift this one more towards the front. So now it's kind of like really pulling against each other. But yeah, the belt is great. Very rigid. As far as like attaching some weight to it, it's not going to kind of sag, and it's still super comfortable doing this. And I'm kind of asking a lot of it right now. I'm not gonna move too much, especially with the weight kind of in the front, a little bit dangerous. But yeah, once you get like the outer belt, sometimes I've noticed that if the outer belt is either too loose, if it's too tight, it's a pain in the butt and it becomes very uncomfortable. But if it's too loose or you know it's not rigid enough and you have a lot of stuff on that outer belt, it will kind of have a tendency to just, like the outer belt itself will kind of sag everything. So the inner belt really kind of establishes that foundation for the outer belt. So you definitely don't want to skimp out on a good inner belt, and Agilite definitely knows that because they did a great job with this inner belt. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the outer belt. Now the biggest thing with this combo is going to be kind of in the name. It's going to be those magnets. So you're kind of like wondering, why does it need magnets when it's got like the Velcro, the kind of hook and loop to secure it anyway onto that inner belt? But the magnets are great because one, it allows you to throw it on quickly, but it's going to allow you to align the belt and keep it in the same orientation and alignment every single time. Because if you get a belt that doesn't have those magnets to kind of align with, so just this, it's got the normal kind of Velcro hook and loop on the inside. A lot of times, since I'm kind of just judging off of what I can see in the front, I can maybe sometimes put it a little bit more like this. So now the buckle is kind of a little bit more to the left. And when I'm trying to draw my holster or my pistol, the holster is shifted slightly. So it kind of messes with that muscle memory a little bit. So generally I'm kind of going off of like where my zipper would be. So I can kind of align it like that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to actually get that alignment right. And you just end up doing a lot of that, which is a pain in the butt. So Okay, so I can generally line it with my zipper, but a lot of times, especially you can kind of see it here, I'm missing a lot of that hook and loop because I was so fixated on getting the buckle. And sometimes, especially in the back, I'll miss a lot of the hook and loop as well because I can only really see in the front. So I'm just trying to align that Velcro there, trying to align the Velcro there. Again, it's just time consuming and it's not always the same every single time. So having these magnets is great. So you can see here you have the magnets and then you also have kind of like a triangle in the center. So as long as the triangle is pointing up on both of the belts, you kind of understand that the alignment is going to be solid. So as I'm throwing this on, it's already hooking to those magnets there. And then all I need to do is take the rest of it, wrap it around. Since I'm hitting those magnets, it's already kind of aligning the back as far as the hook and loop. And then I'm just aligning this front part up. And then I know the orientation is going to be perfect and the same every single time, which is, it's a really, really cool idea. And those magnets are strong. That's why it's very easy to kind of like find that. So it's a really, really cool idea. And it's really just super innovative as far as being able to take that outer belt and throw it on quickly, have the same orientation every single time. So everything is exactly where it was the first time, you know, provided you didn't move anything around. It's a really, really smart idea. And again, it's super easy. So let's say I'm fishing around and then right there, you can kind of hear it snapping on just like that. And then again, same orientation every single time. And it's such a cool idea. So I'll kind of show you the belt outside of the magnets. Again, magnets, I never really thought it would be that helpful with like kind of like a belt combo like this, but it works really, really well. And I can't really speak enough about that. It is such a freaking cool idea. Such a smart idea, just in general. If you've ever been to the range with me and you see me putting on my belt, you're probably gonna hear that Velcro going multiple times as I'm trying to align it. So that is just a very awesome tool, especially again, if you're kind of like on a QRF or something and you're just walking around with your inner belt on, if you need to quickly grab your outer belt, especially for me when I was guarding the nuclear missiles, when I was on the recapture tactics team, we were kind of a reactionary unit. So we had a certain time frame or a certain time standard that we were reacting to. So we wanted to make sure if there's somebody trying to get to a certain area, we could kind of interdict as soon as possible. So when you have a time standard like that, you don't want to be messing with your belt so much. And you know, that kind of goes for a lot of other types of teams, whether it be more of like police or military or what have you. So again, as far as those materials, you do have the 1000D Cordura, and then you have the thermoplastic, which helps it. So even if you do have like the, you know, solid inner belt, having that sort of rigidity in the outer belt as well, it's going to ensure you're not sagging pretty much at all. We can already see with the inner belt, there's no sag, and we'll do the same sort of test with the outer belt as well. So you do have that. You have the Cobra clip buckle and then also the D buckle. Now you can also request that these be fully rated. So even though you have like the fully rated buckle, you know, for like certain loads, it usually doesn't have the same sort of load certification or rating for the entire belt. So you can get it to be properly load rated if you just request that whenever you're actually doing your order, which is pretty cool, especially if you do have to use this for other things, especially hooking into aircraft or what have you. It's nice to have that kind of peace of mind that the entire belt is rated and not just the buckle or the, you know, the D buckle. Now, as far as the adjustability, again, super easy to adjust the outer belt. So you can kind of see here, you have the buckle itself. So all you have to do is kind of make that adjustment there. And then you also have kind of like an elastic loop right here. So you can actually take all that excess and tuck it in. But for me, I have a holster, so I'm kind of just tucking it underneath that holster. Or you can just get some tape or kind of really anything else just to kind of trap that extra. So once you do size it, you can secure that. And it is nice to have that kind of elastic there just to secure it whenever it's adjusted. You kind of, you know, keep it out of the way and it's not going to start slipping or anything. So super easy to adjust it. As far as the actual MOLLE or the PALS looping, yeah, you have it very, very close to the buckle there. So if you're taking some pistol magazine pouches, these aren't, I'm gonna upgrade this kind of setup in a little bit, but if you do have something else, for me, I love having my pistol magazine pouches like pretty much right up where that buckle is. And sometimes you have some belts, so let's see. You have some belts where it's not really, like this one you can see here, you kind of have a little bit more standoff, so you don't have any MOLLE there. Ferro Concepts does a pretty good job of having that MOLLE readily available. ATS, again, kind of a lot of standoff, so you're kind of losing a lot of that crucial room. And then Raptor Tactical also does a pretty decent job, but it is nice to have that MOLLE kind of right up there, so you have a little bit more room, because especially when it comes to pistol magazine pouches, which generally will kind of be up here, or rifle magazine pouches, it's nice to be able to kind of start that here, so you're not having them on like your sides or kind of moving more towards the back. And also just so you can kind of take other things like your medical pouch and slide it a little bit more towards the side, so it's not kind of you always reaching in the back to try and grab some things. So that MOLLE setup works really well. And then again, you can see you kind of have that thermoplastic throughout, kind of just keeping it so it's not like super thick, like kind of like the Ronin belt feels pretty thick as far as like the actual MOLLE and whatnot, but the thermoplastic makes it kind of a little bit thinner, a little bit more streamlined and flexible, while also kind of giving it that rigidity. So yeah, you got the thermoplastic and the MOLLE all throughout. And then again, you have that D buckle or the D ring, and then you have the Cobra clip, which works super great. That's kind of like the standard for these battle belt or tactical belt setups now. So I'll throw it on and I'll do some, see how fast I can do this. So just like that, tuck the thermoplastic in, and then again, it's so freaking convenient. And then there you go. It's the same every single time. I'm not like constantly shifting all this stuff around. Everything is exactly where I need it to be. Same way every single time. So again, if I'm trying to get like a draw, everything feels super natural because that's how it is every single time. So even if you're trying to do like some holster drills, you can get really, really quick because now this thing is going to be, you know, where you need it to be. So even for kind of like competition shooters, it's nice to have everything exactly the same way. So when you are doing that draw, you can get that perfect grip every single time. Even like small deviations will kind of mess up your grip as you're kind of going down to get that pistol. I know competition shooters probably have their own thing going on, but just having like a belt that's kind of versatile for all that stuff is pretty nice. Something you can take into combats, which is actively happening right now in Israel. Something you can take into combat, and then also something that you can use just on the range for competition shooting, what have you. It's nice having kind of like a all-around platform or modular platform for that. And of course, it works great when it comes to plate carriers. So if you have a belt that's a little bit too bulky, sometimes it can be a pain in the butt when you're actually using it with a plate carrier. So I'm using it here with the Agilite K0, another awesome product by Agilite. And I'm sorry, but my mic is probably getting destroyed right now. So yeah, it works great with their K0. Again, everything super streamlined, kind of where it needs to be. Everything rests great. So if I need to draw my pistol or what have you, or if I need to move, everything works really well together. I'm not kind of like pushing against, even with my pistol in here. If I need to engage with my rifle, you know, this isn't like super bulky. I'm not like scraping up against anything. So I have a lot of kind of flexibility. I have a lot of mobility. And again, everything just kind of stays out of the way if I don't need it necessarily right then. But when I do, it's exactly where I've kind of trained the entire time. And again, it's just nice when your gear is kind of not fighting itself. And with Agilite, they do a great job of making sure their gear is not fighting each other kind of thing. So yeah, it works great. So if for whatever reason, you're like carrying a, I don't know, something stupid like a 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum, if you're carrying something big and heavy like that, you can have a belt that can kind of, you know, hold the weight, kind of hold its own against something goofy like that. I don't know who would do that. Okay, so there we go. And again, it just feels goofy because it's a lot of weight. But you can see I'm not having any sag, none in the back, none on the sides. Holster is staying exactly where I need it to. So, I mean, yeah, whatever. If you're just throwing a bunch of stuff on here, you're going to be good because this thing is not sagging whatsoever, which is great for having this much freaking weight on it. And maybe you're one of those guys, I've seen those guys in the Marine Corps that just have like everything on their belt and nothing on their plate carrier. So, I mean, yeah, if you want, you can just take like a drop leg panel or something, or a drop panel, and just have like a bunch of like grenades and magazines back there, whatever you want to do. The belt's going to be fine. It's not going to be sagging, as you can kind of tell right now, which is awesome. I'm going to take these off before they fall and destroy my toe. Even, again, kind of like on one side, it's not sagging, it's not bringing the entire thing down, which is awesome. And I don't even feel like off balance because the belt is kind of just keeping the weight nice and tight to my body and stuff. So that's pretty neat. That's like the least tactical thing you can say. So that's pretty much it. There's really not a whole lot I can say about it. It is a fantastic product. You guys already know I love Agilite. They do send me a lot of stuff for free. I will say that, and I'll say it with full transparency, but I swear by their products. If I'm recommending anything, it's going to be an Agilite product. And it's nice that I can recommend stuff like a plate carrier, magazine pouches, and then, you know, now a belt. So, and again, they're kind of using all this stuff. It's being actively tested in combat. And the people who are designing this know what they're designing. They know the purpose. They know what works, what doesn't work. So it's nice to be able to kind of take that real world experience and just put that into the innovation for their products. Again, if you kind of look at plate carriers or belts from even like 10 years ago, they are very, very different. And having this kind of innovation is just awesome because, again, everything kind of works together and you're not constantly fighting your gear. So yeah, Agilite, you guys knocked it out of the park yet again. If you guys are interested, I will put a link to the belt down in the video description. This belt goes for about $185 before shipping. And right now I think you can get it in Coyote Brown, black, and multicam. So you got options, you know, if you're just trying to accessorize with your kits. Again, you kind of see there, it works great with my black K0. So yeah, I definitely recommend this belt. As far as how it compares to any of my other belts, it is definitely my favorite belt so far. I would say before that, the Ferro Concepts belt, the Bison belt, was probably my second favorite. But I think the Agilite just takes that and does everything a little bit better, kind of adding that D-ring there, adding those magnets especially, and yeah, everything just works super well. So yeah, I definitely recommend the product. If you guys are interested, check it out in the video description. If you guys have any questions, definitely let me know, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Or if you want me to compare it to something else, or kind of ask me how it might work in a certain situation, I can try and test that out as well. But that is it for this video. I'll see you all in the next one.